Hope on the Hard Road podcast, where you and your family can find community, find encouragement, and find hope for the road ahead.
His strength will find you in your hardest moments, and His grace is going to heal your broken heart. And it's okay to cry. Just keep that hope alive. Our kids are in there. They want to be seen and heard. And God's moving mountains. So just keep believing.
Hey guys, we're excited you're joining us for this episode. Today we begin our Spellers series, highlighting this incredible form of communication. You won't want to miss this informative and heartwarming series this month.
Pamela Schlenz is the executive director of Idyllwild Pines, a retreat and camp center nestled in the San Jacinto Mountains of Southern California. Along with his wife, Pamela, Kelly has dedicated his life to creating spaces where individuals and families can connect, grow, and find hope.
Inspired by their daughter, Naiya, who communicates through spelling, the Schlenz family has become passionate advocates for the spelling community. At Idyllwild Pines, Kelly and Pamela host specialized camps for spellers and their families, offering opportunities for communication, inclusion, empowerment in a beautiful, supportive environment. Their leadership reflects their deep faith, family values, and a commitment to building a world where every voice can be heard and celebrated. So let's listen in. Hey, Kelly and Pamela, this is amazing to finally have you on the podcast. We are so excited.
Yeah, we are so excited to be here. And we are so grateful for, first of all, your friendship, but just also for the support you all have given us over the last few years since we've met. It was a long time coming, and we are so excited.
Why don't you start from the beginning, give us a little bit about your story, your daughter's journey, and so forth like that?
Yeah. Going way back, I had the opportunity to work at a Christian university as a resident director. We were living on site at a college amongst college students. We had Naiya, and it just kind of quickly became obvious that she just wasn't developing quite as quickly as our other kids, or at least didn't appear to on the outside. She had kind of some tendencies that we had started to notice. We had square carpet rugs, and she would follow the squares back and forth, and she would set things up in groups of 3. And if her brothers messed those groups up, she'd get really frustrated and go back. And so all over our house, we had groups of 3 books or 3 cars or 3 different items kind of all over the place. I was working on my master's at the time, and I was pretty aloof. I was really focused on work and focused on trying to get my classes done. And so unfortunately, Pamela really had to deal with so much of the beginning stages when we realized something else was going on. But finally, she got my attention and got through and was like, hey, we really need to go and talk to somebody about this. And so we went in and she did receive an official diagnosis of, at the time, it was moderate autism. And again, there wasn't a lot of engagement, right? So part of the challenge was the practitioner was just talking to us. There wasn't a lot of engagement directly with Naiya, but that's kind of what started everything. We were really blessed to live in a space and where I worked, where I lived. And so we were able to really dive into all kinds of different things. At the beginning, we were trying so many different things and options and things that everybody gets, right? As soon as you get that diagnosis, that comes with a prognosis of all the things that she'll never be able to do. When it first started, honestly, I think, and again, you can speak to this too in your own way, things were a little dark for us. Right? Because all you hear about is the hard stuff and the limits and the things that will never happen, and that your life is not going to look the way it looks, and especially the way that you anticipated it looking. Yeah. And so again, we, did all the ABA and got signed up with all the different groups and organizations and the regional centers and, the slew of information that comes. You're suddenly sort of drinking out of a fire hose, it feels like. And so we entered into that journey of trying to support Naiya the best that we could and figure out, okay, what really works for her. And we were just sort of at a loss. It was brand new, obviously, for us, as probably it is for most parents. But neither one of us had a lot of experience in those fields and understanding. So we did all kinds of different stuff, like I said. And then we found the Sunrise program, which really helped us refocus, right? For us kind of come to grips. And it's not a Christian-based organization kind of by any means, but us being Christians, that was for us how we walked through it. It allowed us to come to some terms and have some conversations with God that we hadn't had yet initially, and to reframe what this whole thing was going to look like and what the journey was going to look like for us. And so we tried to be very open-handed with it. And okay, God, like, we have no idea what this roller coaster looks like, but you put us on it. And so we're going to hold on tight and go. God has been so faithful in the way that he's orchestrated every step, right? Everything that we went through and everything we tried, whether it worked or didn't work, didn't have the result we anticipated. Looking back, we can just see his clear steps that when you're in it, you don't necessarily see. But again, sort of looking back on our past, we definitely can see that. It really just was so amazing in the way that he orchestrated everything. And I mean, there's so many pieces to that. Obviously, Naiya's 15. Our journey has been years and years. But yeah, we ended up coming back up to a Christian camp that I had grown up at through a crazy series of events, and actually found somebody who had been involved previously with the same program we were looking at with the Sunrise program. But she had kind of started her own thing. And every time we moved and did something different, God just really orchestrated and opened the doors, again, in beautiful ways. So that introduced us to Autistically Inclined with our friend Julie. And that then led to all these next steps of starting to find spelling and trying different ways to connect with Naiya. For us, that was always our heart, right? We could watch her do different tasks, and that was wonderful. But we wanted to get to know who our daughter was. We wanted to know her heart, what she dreamed about, what she wants to do, and what her relationship with Jesus looks like. And so we're still working through so many of those things. We found spelling at that point in time, I think, 7 years ago, is that right? That we got into spelling, and it's been slow and steady, but within the last month or so, we've really seen some pretty significant changes.
You guys, we just love your story. It is amazing to watch all that God has done in your lives and to watch the trajectory it's taken. We would love to know just a little bit more about how you discovered that spelling was a reliable way for Naiya to communicate. What was that turning point or that moment of realization for you guys?
I heard about typers when Naiya was really little, but we just thought it was, a phenomenon. It wasn't for everybody. It was just this, that was this miraculous moment for this individual. And so we just let it go. And then years later, when we met Julie, we started taking a class with her called Natural Play Therapy. In that class, there was a mentor mom, and she had a son who was, I remember her talking to me about it. And I actually told her that it wasn't for us, that Naiya had a speaking voice, that we needed to work on her speaking voice, because that's kind of along the line somewhere I had learned that's what we needed to do.
Right.
So she kind of encouraged me not to stick to that so strong. And so Julie actually started showing us videos in the class of spellers. And we couldn't unsee what we were seeing. Their voice was talking, repetitively while they were spelling these unbelievable things that you just couldn't even imagine them spelling. And so we started to think, wow, maybe this really is something. And we started to just have more hope in that. And then one of those spellers actually ended up coming to our camp. He came to visit. We got to sit down with their family, and he spelled for us and just told us, Naiya can do this. Don't give up on her. That was it.
And he's spelling as his voice is saying something completely different. For us, that was the other thing. We've been told for so long we need to focus on the voice and help them with their voice. But we're going like, well, wait a minute. He's flapping his hands and saying purple circle, yellow square, and, singing songs from kids shows. And yet he's typing. Naiya can do this. Please ignore, what's coming out of my mouth, because it's not really what's on the inside, right? He's got these cohesive, cognitive 18-year-old thoughts because that's who he is truly. Outside, you're just not seeing that. And so that was mind-blowing for us. And so just going, okay, like this is something that could be great, honestly, for anybody. And so again, like God has been so faithful, and I wish that he parted the skies and just constantly told us, this is what I want your next step to be. But he just tended to bring people into our lives that just sort of showed us some very clear next steps, right? Sometimes it was still a little muddy, but at least next steps. And so again, just in trusting with him, those next steps were super clear.
Wow, you guys, seriously, I have goosebumps just hearing that whole story. That is incredible.
And I mean, just hearing that you get to this point and you realize how much is inside there and that's been trapped. I'm talking about 8 years of her life, and you realize there's so much thinking going on. Sometimes we use the term nonverbal, and it's really not. It's just non-speaking at the point in time, and there's so much inside of them. So it's kind of like unlocking the door. How did you guys unlock the door with all this stuff inside of her and start teaching her the techniques of spelling and maybe walk through that journey with her?
Ultimately for me, it's just a God thing, right? It is, and it's his timing. I think ultimately, like, I don't know if we can point to anything again that we did or some, I wish there was the magic bullet theory. I wish there was just something that I could say that, everybody like, boom, this is what happens. I think for me that the biggest thing is presuming competence, giving age appropriate material. Those things are huge. It was very slow for us. And I think that's the other thing too. Like, I've heard of spellers just right off the bat, right? I mean, they just take to it and they're open-ended, communication where their own thoughts are coming out and it's really just flows. And then in our instance, it was 7 years and we're just now really getting to some of those thoughts. Everything is so bottled up, right? And so we're dealing with health. And that was a big part for us, is that Naiya's health was so up and down and all over the place. And so it made having sessions really difficult. And so we weren't able to be as consistent. I've heard of other people doing hundreds of lessons, right? Where we're just retraining the motor and trying to reinforce that brain-body connection. So it's like they can do what they want to do. Ultimately, that's really what it is taking so many fine motor movements of speech and moving it into something that's so much more gross motor, right? And so it's like, I just need to control my hand. It starts off in a larger stencil that has a few letters and you've got a few different boards. This movement's really easy. And then we're getting into finer movements with a smaller stencil. And then we're getting ultimately to typing. Some people haven't gotten to that place yet. They're still in slightly larger gross motor. I think the biggest thing is having grace with yourself, having grace with your speller, having zero expectations. I think that's the biggest thing. Is we all want it so bad, right? Like you just want to know everything you can about your child or about the person that you're spelling with. You entered into this for a reason, hopefully to help them, right, gain some sense of independence and be able to get their thoughts out. We learn so quickly a lot of the things that they're saying are sometimes even the exact opposite of what they really want. And so that learning more about the brain-body disconnect and learning again more to that there's just so much there was big. Everybody's journey looks different. It's a microcosm of our greater experience, right? In walking through this journey, everybody's going to look different. Some are going to take it quicker than others. Try really hard not to compare, even though those things are so hard. But the more consistent you can be, the more practice can happen. And for me, somebody explained it's like the ruts in a road. If you've got a road that's been traveled a ton, right? Especially a dirt road that's not paved, it has these deep ruts, and that's where the vehicle wants to go, similar to our brain, right? And so we're trying to literally get out of those ruts and stay out of those ruts. And yet it's so easy. Like we just want to go back into it. We want to fall back into those things because that's easy and that's what we know. And so, again, being patient and helping kind of get out of those ruts and rewire our brain in many ways. And so it's just fascinating. And I think just taking time and grace was a big part of it.
Absolutely incredible, you guys. Just the amount of hours. And I love that you bring up presumed competence. Can you tell us a little bit more about what that is?
Presuming competence ultimately is just that realization that, and I kind of go back to that age-appropriate material. It doesn't hurt to assume that they know. Our kids spend so much of their time listening and gathering information. They know so much more and have retained so much more than we even can fathom. So being able to step into a scenario and say, you know what, I'm going to treat this person age appropriately. And it's just so easy. Sometimes we've all done it. We've all heard it, right? We use sort of the baby voice, right? And then we're going to coddle this person. And it's like, no, they want to be treated like anybody else their age, right? It's not going crazy above and beyond. But we're going to assume, we're going to presume, right, that you're competent in all of these things, that you already understand your colors, your blood, like all those things, right? Which sometimes we want to start with because outwardly, again, maybe it doesn't necessarily seem like they know those things. And yet I will say, I guarantee you that they do. Naiya has picked up on things that I've talked to her brothers about, right? In different areas. And as doing homeschooling and running outdoor stuff for camp. I'll give you one brief example. She knew and was able to spell the term crepuscular. We were talking about nocturnal animals, and if she was like a nocturnal animal, but she spelled crepuscular, which is like a type of animal that comes out right at dusk and dawn, and that's when they're most active. And she knew that because she had heard us talking about it or seen it on a video and retained that information. So assume that they've picked up way more than you think that they have.
Absolutely. You know, it's interesting because Abby is speaking. She has a diagnosis of autism and developmental disabilities. And, you know, generally speaking, but again, kind of that, what did you call it, Pamela? Inconsistent speaking at times. All of that. Unreliable speaking would be the term. She will use what we call college words every once in a while. It's kind of like that. And you're just like, whoa, where did that come from? So I absolutely love presume competence, honor them and where they're at. Yeah.
Well, and as you started getting her to speak and spell and so forth and starting seeing what came out, what were some of the first things that she said and kind of surprised you with?
Yeah, so it's been really tough for a while to get any kind of consistency with spelling. And then we recently found somebody who helps us with some new supports for her to help her actually land on the letters she wants to land on, which has been so awesome. So it's really only been in the last month that we've gotten some more open spelling, and it's been pretty crazy. Her brother is away at school for a year. He FaceTimed us, and she was able to spell to him on her own that she loved him. The first time she'd ever spelled anything that she loved anybody. So that was amazing. And he got it. And she was able to write him a card and told him that she missed him. What did she say? She said, "You are loved and very missed."
And very missed.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was awesome. And then for me, just a couple nights ago, one of the things, like, Naiya loves the trampoline. We have a trampoline outside, so we'll go jump all the time. And I am older, so it's hard for me to keep up with her. I usually lay down on the trampoline and just look at the stars and just kind of talk and just be there. It's usually me talking. As you've probably noticed, I talk a lot. But for whatever reason, just my heart was stirred to let her know, like, Naiya, like, I'm sorry for the times when I messed up as a parent. And I've apologized in moments, right? But like, there was just something about this moment where I was like, I want you to know, and I want you to hear the apology from me right now for times where I've messed up and I've been short or I haven't responded well. And then a little bit later, we went back inside and I had to go downstairs for a minute, and Pamela was downstairs. And so I came back up and she had her letterboard like sitting in her lap. And I was like, "Do you want to say something?" You know? And so I asked her on the board, you know, just check-in questions are always great, right? And so, "Do you want to say something and spell something right now?" "No, I'm good." We try not to use the same words all the time because then it just becomes very loopy and rhythmic. But she made it really clear that she wanted to say something. And she fought through it. It was really hard. Usually when they're spelling about the person they're with or something emotional, they really want to say it. And so it's that much harder to get their body to cooperate. I'm probably going to mess up exactly what she said. But she said, "You're totally forgiven." Right? And so to hear that, right? And then I just lost it, right? And so, and then Pamela actually ended up taking over about halfway through our spelling session. I was spelling with her and we got through "you're totally," but the forgiven word she was really having a hard time with, and I wasn't tracking. The importance of good teamwork within that communication is having a communication partner and somebody that's just consistent is so important. Pamela stepped in and was able to finish "you're totally forgiven." And then we started to walk away. And then for whatever reason, Pamela was like, well, maybe she has something else she wants to say. Like, I shouldn't just assume she's done. So she went back and said, "I have something else I want to say." And she didn't say yes. She just started spelling. That's what happened. We gave her the option, but she just started spelling. She ended up spelling like, "He's so dear to me," you know, and to hear that as a dad and somebody who's struggled to connect with my child was just, I mean, like, I'm obviously crying now, you know, it was so significant. And again, that's just within the last month. You know, you say "I love you" and you hear them say "I love you" at times. But again, sometimes you still feel a disconnect, or moments you feel like, oh yeah, that was real. But to have her push through that effort to spell has been huge. And that was just a moment that I will never forget.
Never. And we won't either now.
It's okay to cry. We like
Yeah.
this.
Oh, yeah. You know, you just touched on our question is like, how has spelling changed the relationship with Naiya and the family,
Mhm.
both emotionally and then practically, because it is so many hours and so much invested.
Yeah. Just our mindset too. I think being able to presume competence, being able to show her that we believe in her, I hope is really amazing for her. I think that's going to really help in all of our relationship. And I'm hopeful she got to spell I love you to her brother. I'm hopeful that it's going to just continue, that she's going to be able to have that relationship. I know she loves her brothers so much and she hasn't been able to connect with them a whole lot. So I think this spelling journey is going to be miraculous and that she's going to be able to spell to them. They'll be able to really see who she is and just have that connection. So that's really exciting, just to be able to have her be able to connect with her brothers, her older brothers.
And I mean, practically, there's so many pieces, right? And again, there's so much stuff with the medical side that we haven't fully gotten into.
Yeah.
We still have to tread slowly. And I think that's the hardest thing, right? We all just want, okay, like we're going to spell 24/7 and we're going to learn everything about you. And again, it's physically exhausting, it's taxing, it's emotional. And so having to still take things slow, a challenge definitely on our end. But there's so many things that I think we realize we just do for her automatically, right? Without getting her opinion on things. And there's been a couple times where it's like we've checked in on questions and it's like, oh, okay, like I had no idea you wanted that or you didn't like this thing, right? Like I just have sort of always assumed. And so being able to just ask simple check-in questions throughout our day that's huge. A couple nights ago, we got to play a card game together for the first time. She got to decide what she wanted to do, right? And so it's like this loving, sweet little girl. I'm like, she's ruthless on this card game. She's just like, she's like, no, I'm going to play like the mean card on mom, maybe not the, and so it was so fun. And she's laughing and giggling. She's getting to have that autonomy that we so desire for her, that level of independence that it's like, you always want to see your child be able to gain. We're starting to get there. And again, we've got a million miles to go, but it's just, I love that we're doing this podcast right now where it's like, we've just sort of started to get into this new space because it's so exciting and so fresh. But yeah, I mean, there's 1,001 questions and 1,001 things we want to learn. And again, 15 years of life that, we want to be able to unpack, but that's going to take a really long time.
Seeing that you've taken these challenging circumstances and now want to impact so many people's lives, we love that. We're in that game with you. I think we can throw many verses at that our purposes are used for good if we embrace them and we see God using them. Just tell us about the camp, the inspiration, how you've stepped into that space and being able to affect so many other people's lives that may not have even been to camp.
When we stepped into the role, right, when I came back to camp and moved into that executive director role, I think there's sort of a natural thing that happens with camps. And it's like, the leadership, the things that they're passionate about tend to become roped into camp, right? Like that's just naturally what happens. And even when we first got here, camping ministry is so powerful. People getting away and getting that idea of respite and especially families together. We knew we wanted to do something, but the truth is we just weren't 100% sure how to make it happen. And so for us, the biggest thing was just partnership. We already had known Julie for a while and we're so blessed with the relationship there with Autistically Inclined. And so our camp currently is really more of a rental facility, right? So we partner with churches, but different organizations. They typically will come up and do a program. And then we started delving into a few small programs that we do. We have a program that we do that supports high school seniors in their transition from high school to college and whatever's next. We're starting to do some programming. So why not? Like, let's sit down. We'll have Julie come over to the house and we spend, I don't know, like almost a weekend. I think she ended up coming back the next day, but we had charts up and brainstorming what we want this thing to look like. How do we take the power of camp and the power of supporting families that are walking through this journey and really bring that together and just give them a space to come and be comfortable and know that, you know what I mean? Like when they're in the dining hall, it doesn't matter if people are loud or if food gets tossed or, you know what I mean? There's no judgment because we all know what to expect. And then Julie did some training with our staff, our permanent staff. And so again, just helping people with the mindset, right? And so when a family comes through the line to get food, right? Like the person serving, they're talking to every individual, right? Like they're treating, again, everybody with that idea of competence. And you know what I mean? I'm going to presume that in you. And I'm going to recognize that this weekend of camp is going to look a little different. And so brainstormed, threw everything together, did some training and really just sort of hit the ground running. We're like, we're going to try it. And we initially, the first one, like we already had some set families that we knew, right? You try and start with a base of people that are going to give you a lot of grace as you're learning. And so it started with about half of those families. And then we opened up a few spots, and those spots were snapped up in minutes.
I bet.
Then the next year we decided, okay, we're going to do 4 camps and open up registration. All those spots were snapped up in minutes. We've slowly tried to expand what we can offer. We're a little limited, so our camp is rustic. I mean, we are blessed. It's an amazing place, but it's a rustic camp, and we don't have necessarily the type of housing that would be ideal for families. So we were forced to keep it small, but I think that was actually a huge blessing. And so when we do camps, it's typically anywhere from 12 to about 16 families that will come and be at camp. And we sort of do a little bit of everything. The spelling really naturally became a part of it. And that's directly tied to our partnership with Autistically Inclined, sort of our family spellers camps. We are so excited about that. Camp and a board of directors have even greater vision for hoping to be able to create some camps that will serve Christian families and couples that will be able to come and do exactly what you're doing, right? Men's retreats, women's retreats, couples retreats, right? We so desperately need all of those things. And so we want to do that too. The vision is crazy huge, and I have no idea what God's going to do with it. But eventually the goal is to build a large lodge that could operate 24/7, isn't dictated by the schedule of other groups at camp, but that provides both a location for sort of family camps all the time, but also for families to just get away and have respite. You know, the goal would be sort of like a college dorm where there's like an RD that lives on site. It would be a facility that has some professionals that live on site. Families like ours could call up and say, it's been a really rough couple of days. Like, can we come up and can somebody work with our child, right? And it's like, yeah, like, you know what I mean? So almost like a hotel, come up, stay. Parent, we're in the town of Idyllwild, which is beautiful. So parents grab coffee, go get dinner, and have somebody that could work with their kid. We have all these scheduled camps or events that are happening, but ultimately there just be support facility. And that's really kind of like our big, crazy dream, right? Is that we're going to be able to build this beautiful, kind of all-encompassing, fully functional sort of lodge that has all the bells and whistles. There's lots of dreams there, but that's sort of still out there. And we've got a lot of momentum. Okay, how do we make the dream the reality, God? And we never want to get out in front of him, you know? And so we're consistently praying about next steps. But that's sort of where camp is now, and where, again, we're praying that it will get eventually. And we obviously never want to stop the spellers camps and doing those things. We see that as ongoing. In addition to that, there's some pretty big hopes and dreams. So,
wahoo! We are so,
yeah.
we are so excited. I mean, you're close by, and we love that camp. It's just exciting to see what's going on. Do you have a couple of stories that you can share from families that have come up that were so impactful to you guys, just watching it happen while they were there?
So one of the activities that we do at camp is the giant swing. And it is literally, you get harnessed and you're pulled up into the trees and then released, and you swing from the trees, and it's high. We offer that to all the spellers and any family members who want to go on it. And some of the coolest stories are watching the spellers spell that they want to do it, they want to go on it, and then watching their bodies fight through it, having all the support team support them through it. For them to get up that ladder, get on in that harness, and do it is incredible. And just, you know, the parents just watching and crying, and the unbelief, you know, like, wait, you really want to do this? And yeah. So that's just really amazing that they're able to get up and do that and spell afterwards, how amazing it was. And we had one little girl do it, and her body fought so hard, and it took maybe even an hour to get her up there. And afterwards she spelled, "Can I go again?"
And I think for me, there's so many moments where I feel like we could choose from. The campfire for me is always one of my favorites. I think, again, you know, God moves in powerful ways. I feel like when we all kind of gather together, and I think just seeing everybody gather together and hear some of the spellers talk about how they feel about being in that space. We have a couple individuals that come back multiple times a year. They're spellers, kind of like alumni, but also as guides to help some of the other younger spellers or people that haven't been doing it as long. And so to hear, you know, some of them especially say, like, this is such a safe place. Again, I want to make sure to give that distinction, right? Like, our partnership with Autistic Inclined, they're not necessarily Christian spellers camps that are being put on. But for me to see the way that God still moves in those moments, for us as believers, we're giving credit there, but people feel safe and they feel comfortable and they feel loved and cared for. And to hear the things that come from spellers and the families is amazing. And I love that. I love that families feel like they can come and feel loved and cared for. But to see spellers consistently talk about that experience. And again, to know like, cool, like we're not just assuming anything, like they're experiencing this, they're feeling this, and they get to come with their families and their siblings and do something together, right? So many programs, it's specifically for the individual with autism, or they're going to do something where their siblings get to go to camp and it's the camp for their siblings. But to have something that really supports the family as a whole and that they get to come and be a family together is something that, for us, we feel like was pretty rare. And so being able to do that and really put those programs on has been such a joy.
We couldn't love that more. That's what we're all about. That is so good.
A life-giving space that you create, and then they feel it. You can definitely feel the sense of that environment. Take it back on your journey as you've gone through it. What advice would you give to parents as they're beginning this journey, as you're raising a child that's not speaking?
I would say find people who can guide you and support you. Spelling is huge. I'd say give it a shot.
Yeah. We already talked about presuming competence. That's first and foremost. Recognize that they know so much more and there's so much more there. Ultimately, they can do it. It's going to look different for everybody. We spent 7 years. And the truth is we were at that point where we're going, okay, God, is this something that we need to even continue? We're not seeming to gain a lot of traction. Is this what we're supposed to be doing? And again, so often as God works, it's in those moments of question and sometimes even despair, right? That he shows up and it's like, yes, this is, but there was things we needed to learn along the way. And so I think those were some huge things. Have grace with yourself, I think is huge. And as Pamela mentioned, find those mentors in your life, just like any other area of our lives, right? Find people that can really help encourage you, find ways to connect with families. There's so many different modalities. There's so many different ways to do spelling that I think that's the other thing too. Don't just try one thing and get sad or frustrated and kind of give up, but try it. Because even in the moments where at the beginning, it was like, there's something to this. You can see Naiya knows, you can see she's working for these letters, but it's like the ruts that were built were so significant and strong that her body would always fall into. And she still falls into them sometimes, right? And so I think that's the other thing too, is the hardship will still continue, right? The challenges that I think that we all face as families on this journey, those things are still going to be there. Simply unlocking spelling, and we've learned this from a lot of other families, it helps and it brings change that is unbelievable. But these hard days are still there to remember that. And praise God, he's faithful and with us on every step of this journey. Because I think even when it happened and we had some moments of open-ended communication, that body fight really ramped up. We didn't even have time to celebrate before we ran into the next challenge and hurdle. And so I think that's another big piece too that's important. Hopefully that doesn't sound like a downer, but it is just the reality, right? And I think everything that we have are pieces that we add to our toolkit that helps us on our journey. Spelling is definitely a huge tool when it comes to that, but the journey is still there.
What is your vision for Spellers Camp in the next, say, 5-10 years, or just going forward? What's your vision?
Well, yeah. So it's pretty big. I don't know if in 5 or 10 years, again, to me, like, it's all in God's timing. For me, the biggest thing for us is to hold open hands. Like everything that we have, the camp, the program, right? To me, like that's all his resources. So we want to continue to partner with Autistically Inclined and continue to offer spellers camps, again, that are open to all families and that everybody feels comfortable attending. And so that's really important to us. But we also, I feel like, have a place in our heart and a yearning to support, especially Christian families that are walking through this. To me, that's a big part, right? There's several stages. And again, like I said, the end goal being able to have like a all-inclusive space that's operating basically 24/7 to provide space and support to families like ours. That's the crazy end goal. And then again, there's lots of steps in between, but being able to offer even a day opportunity for dads to come up and just talk about what the experience looks like, right? And the hardships and the challenges, because oftentimes, our the stuff we're working through and struggling with just looks different, right? And so being able to do that, being able to do it as couples and support couples. I mean, that's single moms, right? I mean, my heart breaks. And that's one of the hardest parts, I think, for me as I watched this journey. I was talking about this with another Christian dad actually at the last camp. Afterwards, we connected and our heart breaks because so many men walk away, right, from these challenging situations. And so how do we support that? How do we support the moms that are walking through it on their own? How do we support dads and help them walking away? And again, I think for us and our thing, I don't know how families do it without Christ at the center. Sometimes it works and people make it work through sheer will and determination. And then there's days where even with Christ, like we're like, well, our choices are to lay on the floor in the fetal position and cry, or to say, okay, Lord, we're just going to move forward. It's not us. It's not anything special about us. It's not our strength. There's nothing unique about Pamela and I, you know what I mean? It really is. I mean, God using our story and moving, bringing the right people at the right time and his orchestration. Otherwise, we're just people that are trying to live life and figure everything out. I think for me, that's the biggest thing is the future. Like, again, that sort of crazy lodge piece, but how do we take those next steps and develop some other camps and programs while still continuing to do exactly what we're doing in supporting spellers and groups there, but kind of add on to that. So that's sort of the big hopes and dreams right now.
One thing we love to ask, kind of wrapping it up is, what is one thing that you would like our parents to know that would bring hope for the road ahead?
We hear you. This road is not always easy, but you're not alone. One of Naiya's most listened to songs is Lauren Daigle's "Oh Lord." And I love the part that talks about, it says, "Your strength is found at the end of my road. Your grace reaches to the hurting. Still through the tears and the questioning why, I will stand my ground when hope can be found." And I just say, like, his strength will find you in your hardest moments, and his grace is going to heal your broken heart. And it's okay to cry. Just keep that hope alive. Our kids are in there. They want to be seen and heard. And God's moving mountains. So just keep believing.
Wow, you guys, this has been such not only a delight, but an honor. And we're just so thankful for you guys. We're thankful for everything that you're doing. We are so excited for the future with the camp and what's going on right now and the families that we're encouraging to head up there from the local areas. We wish you well. You are absolutely with us on the same team. We're praying for you guys, rooting you on, and just so excited. Thanks again for coming on today.
Thank you. And again, just really quick, want to say thank you both for your ongoing support, not just what you're doing and what you're producing, but even quick texts. And I love the fact that I know sometimes I don't respond quickly. They make a world of difference. And so I think what you all are doing is so impactful. And I love that it expands so much more than just spelling. The way that y'all are supporting families is huge. We're praying for you all, and we're so excited to see what God continues to do with your ministry and the way that you're supporting families as well.
Love it.
I appreciate that.
Love it. Let's go. Check out the show notes to find resources and contact information for today's episode.
Yeah, and if you like the podcast, please share it with others and be sure to follow us so you won't miss an episode.
We love to hear from our listeners, so leave us a comment or rating and connect with us on social media or on our website at hopeonthehardroad.org.